Verse 10, and not only this, when Rebekah also had conceived by one man, even by our father Isaac, for the children had not yet been born, nor having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him who calls, it was said to her, the older shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. Boy, that doesn't sound fair, does it? Especially that last one makes me go, wait a minute. He's not even born yet, and you're saying you hate him? Well, first of all, you got to look where that passage is from, where it says, Jacob I've loved, but Esau I've hated. That's not from Genesis. That's from Hosea, which was written 1,000 years later. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But it's absolutely true that when the promise was that the older would serve the younger, which is upside down in the whole culture of Israel and of that whole sense of things. But it was God had determined that. But as we talked before about election and predestination and free will, all that stuff, is God sovereign? Yes. Does God elect and call? Yes. Did he give us a free will? Yes. Do we make choices as to whether we will follow the Lord? Yes. How do those coexist? I don't know. But they are both truths from the Scripture. And we can depend on every one. And here's an example of it. Is it the foreknowledge of God that he knew the kind of person that Jacob would be and the person that Esau would be? And so, yeah, it would be exactly right that Esau would go after the flesh, but Jacob would go after the Lord, and so therefore they'd serve the... I don't know. Whatever makes you comfortable with the fact that they're both true, and we can't escape either one of them. And so Paul says, what shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? Certainly not. Oh, the Jacob I've loved, but Esau I've hated? That's from the book of Hosea. It's like verse 2 or 3 or something like that. And Malachi, not Hosea. Did I say Hosea? I did say Hosea several times. It's from Malachi. And the book of Malachi, the Lord is saying, hey, look, the whole message is kind of, hey, look, I'm the Lord your God. Why don't you treat me that way? I am your Father. Why don't you treat me that way? And in the beginning of it, he says this. Look, I'm your God. Well, I've loved you, and I hated Esau. Now this is 1,000 years later. Esau is the father of the Edomites, who were against the Israelites all along the way. And the land of Edom, very early and during the time of when Malachi wrote that, the land of Edom was a wasteland. Nothing. And the land of Israel was fruitful. And that's what he was saying there. Now, Paul is saying, you know, we can't take the hatred too far thing. That's what I'm trying to get at. But Paul is saying, look, God chose Jacob, not Esau, even though that was backwards to the time. And that's because, you know, they hadn't done anything yet. It wasn't because of anything that they did or they deserved. It's what God had elected them for. Okay. So there you go with election. There it is. The election's over. Now, verse 14, what should we say then? Is there any unrighteousness with God? Certainly not. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whomever I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whomever I will have compassion. There's another interesting one to look at where in the Scriptures that verse comes from. It comes from when Moses says to the Lord, I want to see your glory. I want to see your glory. And the Lord says, I will pass before you, and I will declare my name to you. And this is the next verse. I will have mercy on whomever I will have mercy. I will have compassion on whomever I will have compassion. Is that his name? Is that the sense of what Yahweh is? I am, I was, I shall be. Some scholars believe that. Is that God's nature? Absolutely. Thank God that he has chosen to have mercy and compassion on you and me. So then, it is not of him who wills, nor of him who runs, but of God who shows mercy. And that's where I get to the comfort level in the whole wrestling with the concept of election and how can this be fair. And Paul talks about it a little bit right there. Okay, it's not my will or your will. It's not my effort or your effort. It's God's mercy. And He shows mercy. But of God, who shows mercy. And He shows mercy and compassion on whomever He chooses. And thank God He chooses to be compassionate and merciful on those who don't deserve it.